I've never thought I would do a video like this ever in my life. So I started into drones. I started to read up about drone photography. So you can always take your photos to the next level when you do drone photography. So I started up looking on Facebook and see what drone photography is all about. And then little did I know it's all the restrictions according to what the drone photography is and what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And little did I know that even though it's a toy drone, you cannot use your drone within, let's say, 10-kilometer radius out of any airport. That means if you go to Google Maps and you look at us and you draw a circle of it, the diameter circle, you're not allowed to do any sorts of flying in that 10-kilometer radius. Secondly is, I always wanted to take some buildings, put the drone next to a building and fly it up, almost like an elevation type of shot. Then I found out that you have to get permission from the landowner in order to do it, and also it's not permitted to do it in a no restricted zone. So the entire George that I live in has got a big circle that says it's a no-fly zone. Though a lot of people take their drones and actually do some professional shooting, that people don't have a license to do it with, but nobody worries actually about it. This is my point that I wanted to make is, we in South Africa are, especially here in the Garden Route, we are really relying on photography to show this beautiful part of the South African country. So we need to somehow enable, allow tourists to actually view this beautiful place. So they're hampering the regulations, the FAA regulations are hampering the tourism industry. So I know it's to prevent every fool from buying a drone and flying it all over town, but in order to take some nice photography shots, just to give you a three-dimensional picture to what you're dealing with, it's quite a handy tool. So it gives you the elevation shots as well. But now the other problem is that I also see is you can fly a drone. If there's no airspace, it must be 60 meters from any person, it must be 60 meters from a house and any type of building. So if you want to go to the beach, you see all those overseas YouTube videos where they do cinematic drone footage, and all of that type of stuff is somehow not permitted here. So you cannot take your drone and fly it across the ocean, across the beach. They're filming people without their consent. So you have to actually ask them to photograph them, So imagine you at the beach, let's say Victoria Bay. You want to take a shot of the ocean and you want to take a shot of the surface. You're not allowed to do it at all. You always have to ask their consent in order to photograph them. Well, even take a video of them. So this is where my next problem comes in. The DJI has got a built-in map with no-fly zone restrictions and no-fly zone software loaded onto the drone. So if you technically go into a no-fly zone, the drone won't take off. It will just say it's a restricted area. But if you look at the DJI app, we got a George Airport here, and the DJI app is only circling the George Airport and the runways, all around the airport. But it looks totally different to the ones that the no-fly zones of drones in South Africa look like. So we have got conflicting maps that we have to deal with. And secondly is, are you allowed to fly when the DJI app shows you that it's a fly zone? So I don't know, even if you put your drone next to a building here, I took my drone and I set it next to a nice, nice historical building in George. Nobody complained about it, but it seems like it's not allowed to do it. So, but your DJI app didn't tell you. So there's a lot of gray areas regarding drone photography in South Africa, and also the retailers don't tell you this. So you go and you buy a drone, and meanwhile you can't just let your kid fly the drone because it's almost like a professional unmanned aircraft. I see these DJI Tello drones go at the Apple store for $9.99 and even at Incredible. But what they don't tell you is you can't just go and fly this at your garden or around your house, because it's not permitted, because it seems like there's piracy laws. And I understand that you don't want your neighbors to worry about you peeping into their garden. It's very difficult to take your drone and go and shoot some nice cinematic shots. So if I'm at let's say now I'm stopping here by the old church in George, taking this as an example, you can't just whip out your drone and go in the air and shoot the church, with this nice Otaniqua mountain backdrop, because surely you will get into trouble and it's against the law. So how do we do this type of thing, legally, within legal terms, without getting into trouble, without breaking the law, and I don't know. It's a very interesting concept how we actually have to deal with this sort of thing. So what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to find places that I can fly my drone in the Southern Cape. It seems like Mossel Bay as a no-fly zone. That means Hartenbos is a no-fly zone, but Wilderness is a fly zone, and all the way across to Plettenberg Bay is a fly zone. So it might just be now the next adventure to actually use a vlogging tool like this in order to find fly zones for drones. It was the last thing that I actually thought I would need it. So yeah, it's almost like I had a motocross bike and I had to hunt for Google Earth and Google Maps to find some nice gravel roads to ride my motorcycle, because it wasn't legal and I did not have a license in order to ride a motorcycle. So now it's just easier to find a place where you can actually take your drone out. Also now you have to think about this. You have to actually create this sort of video with your drone. Like if I want to shoot let's say a nice tree, with a sunset picture, I can't just whip out the drone and shoot it. So I have to actually plan it. It's quite interesting. This might just cause a totally different lifestyle, Instead of having to capture the perfect moment, you have to actually plan to capture the perfect moment, and to do it in legal terms, and also not around people, 60 meters away from buildings, 60 meters away from people. I'm not sure if you can actually shoot a drone footage in public parks. I see everybody does it, but the thing is, public park is open spaces with nothingness. So let me start looking